In Greek of old, you will have heard that the population was categorized into different segments. There were idiots, and there is never a shortage of them. And the idiots' greatest claim to fame is that they do not care about what is happening in their country. They do not care about what is happening in their surroundings. They are prepared to make shortcuts. They live as if the world belongs to them, and they destroy their societies. They are toxic to their societies. The second category of the population are tribesmen and women. These are individuals whose worldview is defined by ethnicity. They look at the world from the prism of ethnicity, and ethnicity here does not simply mean one tribe. It could mean religion. It could mean racism. There is also no shortage of them in the world. They too destroy societies. Indeed, this country is still reeling from a foundation that was laid by tribesmen. Then there are the citizens. These are the men and women who know that they belong to a society and that they must serve their society in truth and justice. They are few and far between. And I want to believe that this evening I'm not addressing idiots. I'm not addressing tribesmen and tribeswomen. I'm addressing citizens. Therefore, good evening, dear citizens. It is possible to convert idiots into citizens through enforcement of law, through constant reminder, and we must always speak to them and remind them of their civic duties. And that is why when we assembled this morning, we were appealing to the hearts and minds of people in the knowledge that they can be converted. Tribesmen and tribeswomen can also be converted through reorientation. And you are assembled here this evening as citizens in the knowledge that we have work to do. We who have made the decision that we are going to be devoted citizens of Africa and the world. I am speaking in the presence of men and women who are successful on the path of success, because I was told that success is a journey and that you are not successful until historians say you are successful. So we are gathered here with captains of industry. We are gathered here with individuals who are contributing to society in different ways as professionals. And we are asking ourselves, what is the value of the contributions that we are making in our societies? And how can we sustain our contributions? Because many are the times when we think we have succeeded, yet in a short time, our apparent success disappears without a whimper, giving meaning to the saying that you are not successful until your successor succeeds. We are here, therefore, to remind ourselves that life itself is a relay race, and the success of the other runners depends on how we run the relay race. The question that we must ask ourselves this evening, what is the contribution that we are making to this generation and generations yet to be born? In the continent of Africa, we know that we have labored under painful conditions and circumstances. And wherever we find ourselves, whether we are businessmen and women, there are still burdens that we have to bear because the continent does not create or has not created an environment where we can fulfill our ambition in all its splendor. But the question is it us who must create those conditions? Those of you who are doctors, lawyers, accountants, business people, and who are involved in different activities in the world, do you ever pause to ask yourself the question, how will it be 10 years from today? How will it be 20 years from today? So this evening we are asking ourselves fundamental questions as Africans, because we have a role to play for this continent. You know, as Africans, we ask ourselves, how can we make this continent a continent which is a magnet, which attracts us and makes us retain our people in this continent? That is our constant struggle. When you have an African passport and you travel to Europe and America, the likelihood is that you may be called aside and asked unnecessary questions simply because you come from an African continent, of the continent of Africa. When you apply for a visa, if you want to understand torture by ordeal, apply for an American visa, Australian or a British. The number of questions that you are asked, including the age of your great-great-grandfather, among other things. And the reason is simple, because we have not succeeded in harnessing our resources. The good pastor has just told us about a conversation that he had with his children, and that conversation is a conversation that is held at the tables of many middle-class families in Africa. And I know many parents who, when they see their children off at airports, whether it is at OR Tambo or Kotoka in Accra or in Njili in Kinshasa, they say, my son, go, never come back, never come back. Why? We must ask ourselves. Because we have not created conditions that make it conducive for us. Many are families that are persuading their children, go out there into Canada, go out there into Australia, go out there into the United States of America and get a second citizenship just in case. Just in case. This is a contradiction of the age-old saying that wherever you go, home is always best. In the minds of most of us, home is not best. And we are gathered here today to consider how we can reverse that anomalous situation. And we can. That's the question that we must ask, because Africa must be able to feed herself. If you can't feed yourselves, you cannot be respected. If you cannot take care of your affairs, you cannot be respected. And we are talking about leadership and the future. Foundational questions, because when we were fighting to regain our independence, we were making promises to ourselves that we would be in a position to feed ourselves. We would be in a position to exploit our resources. We would be in a position to create our institutions. The question is, are we doing so? I remember in that very spirit, in 1980, African leaders sat in Lagos in Nigeria and came up with what was called the Lagos Plan of Action. The Lagos Plan of Action, which was to run between 1980 and the year 2000, had one promise, that we are going to ensure that there is intra-African trade. And when you want to have intra-African trade, there must be free movement of peoples. There must be the open skies. After the Lagos Plan of Action, we had the Yamoussoukro Agreement in Yamoussoukro in Cote d'Ivoire about the movement of aircrafts in our spaces. We had the Kigali Agreement on the free movement of persons. We had the Maputo Declaration. We had the Malabo Declaration. No shortage of declarations about what we are going to do. No shortage. But the question is what have we done and what are we doing? Ladies and gentlemen, I have no doubt in my mind. As I said, we live in a world where there are idiots. You are not idiots. We live in a world where there is no shortage of tribesmen and tribeswomen. We live in a world where we need devoted citizens. You are those devoted citizens. We live in a world where we have a duty to go out there in humility to try and persuade our men and women who have resident in them the ghost of idiocy and the ghost of tribalism, so that we may expel those ghosts, so that they may go and seek residence in the pigs that are waiting out there, and they may be available for being oriented to be devoted citizens. So you who are here, think of Africa. We are 1.4 billion. 1.4 billion. That is a market. But it is only a market when people have money in their pockets. So you imagine that you are a business person in producing a product and you have a market of 1 billion. That is how China gets it right. 1 billion people consuming an item. It can be done. It has been done. Today, the Mecca that all middle-class people want to visit is Dubai. Dubai, as the good pastor said, was a desert 50 years ago. Today, they have converted the desert into something that is a magnet. In your own neighborhood here in Mauritius, Mauritius is becoming a magnet with a population of no more than 3 million. In your neighborhood here, Seychelles is becoming a magnet with a population of no more than 800,000. We can do it, and it is all of us combined that must do it. And the beauty of the world is that everybody has their work cut out for them. There are those of you whose duty it is to go out there and make millions. Behold, make millions. There are those of us whose duty is to irritate you on a daily basis that you may make millions. All of us have our work cut out for us, and our duty is to realize that we are running a relay race. I run my leg, you run your leg, and when we win, then we will all celebrate in the knowledge that we are making an Africa that we are going to bequeath to our children and children's children, an Africa that will be great, an Africa that will be respected, an Africa that will be acknowledged, an Africa that will not be mistreated, an Africa that will not be abused, an Africa that will be acknowledged as the cradle of mankind. Thank you very much. Dinner will be served shortly. Thank you very much. God bless.